In 1996, Scream did not just reinvent the entire horror genre, it would be the equivalent really of it walking up to Michael Myers' Halloween mask, jumping up behind him going boo, and him shitting out popcorn everywhere. Is that too much of a vivid explanation of how I feel about this movie? Hi, I'm popeyJN, welcome to Beyond the Screen. Today we're gonna have a look at Scream. This could be a lucky day in hell. So, do you guys remember back in the early 1990s when horror movies were as fresh as milk that has been left in your fridge for 2 months? That's a disgusting analogy. I'm sticking with it. The sequels looked so boring and as an act of commerce to get more success for a franchise that even the killers in the movie look fucking bored to be there. And then all of a sudden in 1996, here comes Scream, giving us a big dose of Red Bull in the veins and revitalizing this genre. Kevin Williamson brilliantly wrote a script after haunting himself and scaring himself by watching real life events happening on TV. Because we all know real life is creepier than anything you can create. That sounded sarcastic, that's a genuine fact. People are scary, people are horrifying. Look after yourselves out there. But with a good script, he needed stars. And who was bigger in the 90s than Drew Barrymore? Apart from maybe Macaulay Culkin, but don't worry about it. So they get Drew Barrymore, but she decides, I'm not gonna play the lead, because I'm gonna play the opening victim and be in this movie less time than I stand in queue at the supermarket. Should I stop with the analogies? Maybe I should stop. They're getting a bit much, aren't they? But armed with a bunch of stars and with the horror maestro that is Wes Craven, it was in good hands. But what stands Scream out? How did it revitalize this genre? What made it so different that people still love it and talk about it today? Clearly, the answer lies in the characters. All of the characters in the movie have seen horror movies and are aware of the cliches. They're aware of the rules. They're aware of what to do, what not to do. What do you mean you're going to investigate a strange noise? You deserve to die. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he means.
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!
You see, you push the laws and you end up dead.
Watching Randy explain the rules in this movie was one of the highlights and one of the seminal pieces that I remember so vividly because this was actually my first horror movie. Scream was Popey's first horror movie. It was also actually, I think, my second movie ever to watch when I was about 3 years old, but we're not gonna get into that. We're not gonna get into it. But having characters that knew all the rules and the cliches of the genre meant that the audience could actively laugh along, which was great because we're all sitting there going, why is that dickhead running up the stairs? Why are you doing it? You know it's a bad idea. You've seen these horror movies. You know how that ends. Stabby, stabby. But the genius of the movie is even though it pokes at the cliches and you know what the rules are, you know what the cliches are, you know kind of the structure of what's going to happen, it still puts you on the edge of your seat. And that is down to the brilliance of Wes Craven. And fun fact, did you know after Scream released that caller ID devices to go onto your phones like fucking 300%ed in the US because people were terrified of prank calls? That's the power of the movies back in the 90s. And then you had Sidney Prescott, Neve Campbell at the center of all this. And she's not just a typical final girl who's just there to be like,
oh, I have no idea how everyone's getting murdered except me.
It's an accurate description of basically every final girl, isn't it? So, put all your ingredients together. You got a very encapsulating final girl who isn't just there to drive the story forward. She's actively participating and is an active part of the story instead of just being there for the sake of being there. Then you have all these other side characters who knew the rules, and that created like this meta horror commentary You shake that all up together, and what do you get? Oh, I'll tell you what you get. $173 million at the box office. Thus proving that Scream revitalized horror by breaking all the conventions, all the rules, and ever since then, cinema has been better for it. Until like the last decade, we won't talk about like the new Screams, or how tired it's all become with the meta stuff. But at the time, it was groundbreaking, so fair play. We do owe Scream a lot in the modern age in terms of horror cinema, because it really paved the way for people to be able to break these barriers and not just do the formulaic movies. And that is why Scream is like a top tier special place in my heart, and that is how Scream revitalized the horror genre. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Beyond the Screen. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a little bit different today, but nonetheless, hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of Scream down below. Does the legacy hold up, or has it become too stale for you? But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.